God bless you, dear ones. Welcome to the Word with Chester. Today we will begin studying chapter 2 of the book of Ecclesiastes. In our last study, we gave a preface to this book, and also we read through chapter 1. And you need to glean from chapter 1 because this is actually a continuance of his dialogue in chapter 2 from chapter 1. And his statements, I'll read verses 1 and 2 in chapter 1 to give you the continued focus of what he's saying here. In verse 1 of chapter 1, it reads, "The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity." So get the picture now. He's saying that everything is for nothing. I won't read through chapter 1 again, but you need to grasp that as we continue reading, that everything is for nothing. And this was the analogy of Solomon, who we know now as the wisest man that ever lived. And as we read this particular book, you can actually see the wisdom in what he's saying. And in chapter 2, this is the proof continued that everything is for nothing. And we will discuss this dialogue. And he's talking here in this particular chapter that pleasures and riches cannot satisfy. And you have to get that if you want to live a peaceable life or a life of contentment. You have to know that riches and pleasure can't satisfy. And I'm mighty afraid that all of our focus in our world today or in our society today is about riches. If you don't have this type of car, you're looked down on. If you don't live in a 5-bedroom house or whatever, you're looked down on. And we determine status by what a person has, and that's not a real good thing. And also, but I also want you to know, never get into the habit or the mindset that you belittle people that have made certain successes. You should be grateful for them and glad that God has blessed them to get to where they are. But yet you have to understand that pleasures and riches cannot satisfy. You have to, number one, satisfy yourself inside for anything on the outside to satisfy you. Now we'll begin our reading at verse 1 of chapter 2. The Bible reads, "I said in my heart," now this is the words of Solomon, and keep in mind, I told you this is somewhat of an autobiography that Solomon was writing when he wrote this book. So here he is talking. This is his dialogue, if you please. "I said in my heart, come now, I will test thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. He said, I'm going to test this thing out and see now. So he went out to enjoy himself. "I said in my heart, come now, I will test thee with mirth." And that's what mirth is, my dears. It is just a seeking pleasure, one who seeks pleasure, and to seek to be fulfilled through that type of thing. "I said in my heart, come now, I will test thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is vanity. This is also vanity. This is also for nothing, enjoying pleasure." Now let's read. "I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it?" Can you get that now? I sought laughter, I sought everything, I sought pleasure, and all I could come up with is all of it is for nothing. Now let's read now in verse 3. I sought in my heart to give myself to wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom. To give myself to wine now. I'm going to drink a little bit and yet give my heart to wisdom. Some wine is a mocker and strong drinks are raging. Anyone deceived thereby is not wise. But yet Solomon saying here that I am going to give myself to wine and to know wisdom. Let's read it again. I sought in my heart to give myself to wine, yet acquainting myself with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heavens all the days of their life. So Solomon is saying, I'm going to take my time here and think about it. I'm going to have myself a little wine, and I'm going to put this in my thoughts, and I'm going to reason with it. And there's some of you, you know what I'm talking about. You get that little drink in you, you go to thinking, your mind starts to going 100 miles an hour, and sometimes it goes all the way out in left field. But get what Solomon is saying. I'm going to give myself to wine, and I'm going to think about these things and everything he's saying and all of the analogies that he has given and will given. It all comes up to the same place that everything is for nothing. Now let's read now in verse 4. I made myself great works. I built houses. I planted vineyards. This is autobiography. Remember, Solomon is telling you what he did, and he did so. He made himself great works, and you have to get this. Now you can read, I believe it's in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 7, I believe. You can find where Solomon built the temple that many people worshiped in. Not only the children of Israel, but other people worshiped because they knew of the true and the living God. And Solomon built that house, and it was so beautiful. Number one, I can't get 10 cubics, if you please. I can't give you all of the dimensions from off the top of my head, but yet all of that laid in gold on the inside. Can you see how beautiful and how picturesque that was? Solomon's letting you know, I did this. This is what I did. I made myself great works. I built houses, and even his own house was magnificent and beautiful. He did all of these things, and he planted vineyards. You have to understand, you don't just build a house and that be it. But when you build something, a fortress, a mansion, or any type of building, it has to be landscaped around. And Solomon built vineyards and things around, planted all over and around the buildings that he built now. Let's read. I made gardens and orchards and planted trees in them of all kinds of fruit. Can you see what Solomon did now? But he's going to come to a finale. So stay with me as we read. I made pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. He made pools of water. And the one pool that's specifically talked about in the Bible, you can read it also in chapter 7 of the book of 1 Kings, where the pool that was in the temple, it was elevated, if you please, and there were 12 oxen, three heading, pointing each direction, north, east, south, and west, 3 on each direction. And on top of the pool, he put this on top of the oxen. He put this great pool here on top of that, and it was a very large pool, if you please, and it had baths and all of these type of things for multiple people in that pool that he built and set on top of these oxen. And also keep in mind, everything was layered in gold, and the beauty of it and the grandeur of it, keep that in mind. So Solomon is letting you know, I did all of these things. Yes, I did it. So he built all of these things, and they were beautiful and picturesque, and the pools were multi-purpose. It wasn't just water up there, and why would you elevate a pool? Now get the picture now. When you take water and elevate it, they did not have pumps and things that we have in the day that we live, electric pumps, centrifugal pumps, and positive displacement pumps, and all of those type of things they did not have in that day. But when you elevate a pool of water, the gravity would be like your pump that would supply water to whatever direction you would want to pipe off to it, to the chambers and the places where the priests would sacrifice and do all that they did. It would supply water to all of these type of areas. So he's just showing you what he did now, all of the things that he had accomplished and did. But yet we're going to come to a finale. Now let's read on in verse 7. I got servants and maidservants and had servants born in my house. And I had servants so long, my servants had children, and they were born in my house, and they became my servants. Also, I had great possessions of herds and flocks above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I had more than, go back to King Saul, I had more than him. I had more than my father. I had amassed such great wealth and things of that nature. I won't give you a logic of that. It would take me too long. But you have to understand, Solomon was in a time of peace. He did not have to go out to battle and go out to war like his father did, but yet he is letting you know that I amassed great wealth. I had lots of cattle and all the things that go along with wealth, even more than all that was before me. Now shall we read on now? I gathered also silver and gold and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the province, the peculiar stuff, the stuff that everybody don't have, the unique stuff. I gathered all of these type of things into my arsenal of wealth, if you please. I got men singers and women singers and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments and that of all sorts. What are you talking about? Solomon said, you're talking about a house band. Those of you that know about singing different places, sometimes they have a house band and they play your music because you got a house band. Well, Solomon had a house band going on of the best of all of Israel. I'm talking of the best singers and the best instrumentalists. He had all of those. We would maybe liken it into the president's marching band, the president's band, if you please, that play music, and they are excellent in what they do to make it to that stature in music. You've really done something. Why? Because you are the best in the land when you make that, when you make it to that point. Now let's read on in verse 9. So I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me. Please excuse me, dear. Well, I increased and gained all of the wealth that I gained, and yet my wisdom stayed with me. What is he saying? I didn't lose my head and go crazy because I had all this money running around doing all sorts of terrible things. I maintained my wisdom, if you please. Now, we're reading verse 10 now. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. In other words, whatever I saw, I got it. I got it. I didn't keep anything. If my eyes saw it and I wanted it, I got it. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. This is what I got for all of my labor. I had all of these type of things, and all the wealth, and all of the riches, and he had wives, if you please, 700 wives, and 300 concubines on top of that. Can you see this man's lifestyle? He had everything that you could think you would want to have, and now that's a lot of wives. Anytime you can support that many wives and that many concubines, you got some money. Well, let me let you know, he was extremely wealthy, and he's letting you know the wealth that he had in this autobiography. Now let's read on now in verse 11. Then I took on all my works. I took on all my works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do. And behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. This is what he's saying. All that I just mentioned that I did, everything I did it. Everything I said I did it. But yet, when I look at it and think about it, it was all for nothing. It was vanity. It was for nothing, my dears. Now let's read on. We're going to change gears, but yet going forth in Solomon's discourse, now in verse let me just give you what the next verse is we'll be talking about. It will let you know that wisdom is better than folly, but both have an end. What do you mean? If you be wise, that's better than being a fool, if you please. Wisdom is better than folly, but you also have to know we're all going to the same place. We're going to have the same end. We're going to all have to go to the grave. We're going to die one of these days. This is what the writer is talking about in this section of scripture, and you need to know that in your life. You're not going to stay here forever, my dears. Now let's read now in verse 12. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly, for what can the man do that cometh after a king? What can you do? You can't upstage the king because he has everything. What can a man do now that cometh after a king? Even that which hath been already done. In other words, if someone comes after a king, anything that he would set out to do has been already done. Why? Because the king had money to get it done, and it was already done. So whatever you do after that, you'll be duplicating what the king has already done. Now let's read. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. I found that it's better to be wise than to be foolish. And you need to know that now, my dears. It's always better to do the wise thing and always better to go the right direction than to go the opposite direction. And he's giving you that contrast here again through the all of the Proverbs. Solomon gave a great contrast between wisdom and folly, or being wise and being a fool. He gave that contrast, and we get a little bit of that here now. When I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness, it's better to be wise. That's just like light is better than being in the dark, because you can see where you're going in the light. Now let's read in 14. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness, and I myself perceiveth all also that one event happeneth to them all. Now the wise man and the foolish, the wise man and the fool, one event is going to happen to them all. In other words, we're all going to end up going to the grave. We all going to die. We're going to leave this world. Now keep in mind, those of you that did not listen to chapter 1, you should go and listen to that because it gives so much credence to the chapter that we're reading here, letting you know that everything is for nothing. It's better to be wise than to be foolish. When you're wise, you're going to live better on this earth. When you're wise, you're going to have less trouble on this earth. But yet, at the end, we all meet at the same place, my dears. We're all going to leave here. And if I can take it a step further, we're all going to stand before God one of these days. Now, let's read in verse 15. Then said I in my heart, as it happened to the fool, so it happeneth unto me. And why was I then more wise than I said? Then I said in my heart that this is also vanity. In other words, I did everything I did, and I've lived a pretty wise life, if you please. But yet, all the analogy that I can come up in this is that we're all going to meet the same place. And keep in mind that when Solomon wrote this, the book of the Ecclesiastes, he was an older man then. He was an older man and had did many things and probably coming close to the twilight of his years. And you have to get the picture. You see things differently after you get older than you did when you were young. Why? Because you know you're going to leave this world one of these days. So the difference is now you try to leave a legacy, try to leave something for your children to enjoy. Or you try to leave a name for your children to be proud of. Can you get the picture? Well, everything else is vanity. Why? Because we're all going to leave this world. If you get your pleasure, get all of your self-worth from what you do, my dears, one of these days it's going to be for nothing because all of that's going to pass away. Now let's read on. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the day to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? Question mark. How dieth the wise man like the fool? You spend all of your life trying to do the right thing, and when you die, you got to go the same direction as a fool. You might have a nicer funeral, but you just as dead as the fool if you've been wise all your life. Can you get the picture? But you have to know, and as we read, you'll find out that we have to stand before God one of these days, and that should always be your focal point, not what happens here, but I have to stand before God one of these days. Am I pleasing him? Now let's read in verse 17. Therefore I hated life, because the works that I wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit. I did all of these things, and now I'm old now. I can't walk as fast as I used to walk. And I know I'm going to leave this world one of these days, and it ain't going to be too long from now. Can you see? He's saying, all is vanity, my dears. Let's read in verse 18. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. Everything that I've accumulated, I got to leave to the persons that come up behind me. Now, as a king, you talking about who's ever going to be the ruler after you. As a lay person like you and our children, they're going to partake of whatever we have gained in this life. Now, let's read in verse 19. And all who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool, question mark, Yet shall he that rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored, and therewith I have shown myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. And as we read the next verse, you'll understand what he's talking about. In other words, I built this great arsenal of riches, this great abundance here, and who knows what the next man's going to do that come up after us. Is he going to be wise with what I've done? Or is he going to be a fool? Now let's read. Let's read in 20. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. In other words, at that point he was actually depressed. He caused himself to despair. Now let's read. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity. Yet to a man that hath not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This is also vanity. This is vanity and a great evil. Now, what is he saying? Everything that I worked for, somebody else gonna come up after me that haven't did anything, haven't did any work at all, and they're gonna get to partake in the labor that I have done. Can you see what Solomon is saying? The wise man is saying now. Now let's read now. In 22, for what hath man of all his labor and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? He asked a question there. Now let's read on. For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. In other words, you worrying about things and thinking about things. This is also vanity as well. Let's read now. There's nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that I was not that it was from the hand of God. In other words, everything that I accumulated, you have to realize it is the hand of God when God blesses you. Can you see what Solomon is saying now? Well, it's nothing better than when you worked hard and you have gained a lot of things. You have to take time and enjoy it, my dears. If you don't, you'll lose out. Let me read hurriedly the next two verses. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? I'm the king. Who can eat? I can have anything I want to eat, anything I want, I can have it. Let's read in 26. For God giveth to a man that is, let me read it. For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom. God gives to a man what is good in his sight. God grants it, if you please. And knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he giveth travail. To gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This is vanity and vexation of spirit. I'll recap on that one verse in our next lesson. I want you to know that I love you, my dears. I love you with the love of the Lord. You stay with us and watch God bless you. God bless you, my dears.